Welcome to the True That Show, a show about lifepreneurship presented with wit, humor, and banter by Deborah Drummond and Caroline Blanchard. A lifepreneur is someone who's living life the way an entrepreneur runs their business. All in. Lifepreneurs are rock stars. Lifepreneurs are people who are brave, who risk, who live full on, who think out of the box, who win this thing called life. Lifepreneurs are around us every day. They are everyday heroes. Join Deborah and Caroline, these two stage-walking women who tell it like it is. You'll learn from the most incredible lifepreneurs who will inspire you to be the best version of you. Now here are your hosts.
I would love to welcome our listeners back. We have such an amazing show. And if you are actually viewing this, you're going to go, hey, there's a couple of extra people that might be on the screen than normal. So we're doing a whole show about collaboration, people. And it's the thing to grab onto. And so we have some amazing guests, but I'm first going to have a little chat with Caroline here about just the power of collaboration. Why is it that Shelly and Jennifer are on this call? Why did me and Caroline even begin this collaboration of this crazy podcast, True That Media Company, to begin with? Is because really there's power in coming together, and just the evolution of how when people used to start their business, and I'll speak for myself, and I know, me and Jennifer, we play on that side of the tennis court. We're maybe a little, we are a few years wiser. We're a few years wiser. And when you started a business as an entrepreneur, and we both have been in the people business for a very long time, it was kind of a solo journey. And it was kind of like, I think for women, very much like we were copying what we saw, right? And so it was being an entrepreneur and a business person was a very solo position, and it was kind of competitive, in different areas. And it was almost like sports, right? It was almost like sports, like, you're going to win. And I love how Caroline puts it. And so I'll leave that to her on the shift to an abundant way of thinking. But the whole thing around collaboration that we have learned to do is feeling safe with each other enough to realize that when you bring it together, everybody wins. And that's been a process. That wasn't like someone wrote a book on it and we all went, wow, that's a great idea. Let's all jump in. Because as entrepreneurs, and if you're listening and you are an entrepreneur, we know there's lots of you out there, you hold your stuff like babies. Like, this company is my baby. I built this at 3:00 in the morning. And the idea of collaborating and sharing is kind of an interesting process. It doesn't come easy. And so getting to know people, and, I love the fact that me and Shelly met a couple of years ago and we had this touch point, even if it was a conversation, kind of broke that barrier a little bit to kind of like, oh yeah, I've seen this woman doing her thing, right? And when you hear Jennifer talk about all the years that she had, I mean, honestly, she had me when she said she sold Tiffany because it's my favorite jewelry, in case anyone out there wants to know that. Just saying. But anyways, so Caroline, we've gone through so many interesting things in our business and personal, and you've been in like competitive sports. And the first time I heard the word collaboration was when my son told me that there was a collab, because he's a sneakerhead and he's in the fashion industry. There was a collab between these two designers. And one of them, I was like, excuse me? It was a very low end designer connecting with a high end designer. And I'm like, well, that was a good step for them. Not sure it was that way down, but it ended up being mutually benefit. So share me here.
Yeah, I think that the mindsets are really, really changing. I feel like when I was younger, it was more of a mindset of, protect what you have, don't share. What is mine is mine. Even if I was always generous, I mean, with my ideas and everything, always super careful, and as you grow older, and I was listening to you talking and I was wondering, is it getting older that brings that, or it's a cultural thing that is really happening, that we're collaborating more and more? And if it's getting older, imagine when I'm your age, like how collaborative I will be. That will be absolutely crazy. I'm just joking. But, you talk about two stores getting together. They do that a lot for the teens, for hoodies and sneakers and this and that. But it's just brilliant, because if you take two big names and two big networks and you remove the fear of losing customer and you decide to associate, they just both double their sales. And where I really started, seeing that, because I had teens as well, is with singers. I remember Eminem collaborating with Elton John. Like, that was the biggest shocker duo ever. on the Grammys because I mean, one was homophobic and the other one was, well, not heterosexual. So it was like when they both showed up on the scene, on the stage, it was like, oh my gosh, what? And it's one of the best songs ever. Like watching those two powerhouses like collaborating. And I'm saying that because I went to also see Eminem with my son when he was a bit younger in New York, and he was collaborating with Rihanna. Again, two different styles that they merged together. So I think the mindset in general is really shifting, going towards collaborations. Now, what I love is that we're really, you and I are working a lot with women in business, with men as well, but our forte is really women in business. And, a year ago when you talked about the podcast, I thought it was a crazy idea and blah, blah, blah. And of course, I just have the personality of saying yes, jumping in and, we'll see what happens. So thank you for that. But in the last year, we've met so many powerful women, so many powerful business people that I've opened my mind to stop, keeping my information and just like really sharing and wanting to help others grow their business. And that just made us even more successful. And it's just beautiful. It's more of a mentality of abundance. And I feel like the world is going towards that more and more and more. Now, yeah, for whatever reason anyone is doing it, that's that's not for us to judge, but collaborations are amazing because really it's going to get the strength of each person that is collaborating and working on it. But so today we have two amazing women that actually did an incredible project. Deb, you and I published a book, 20 Powerful Women in Network Marketing Tell All. I thought that 20, we were crazy. I thought, oh my gosh, how are we going to gather 20? How are we going to? Well, these ladies did it with 365 women. So just for that, I raise my hat. Congratulations. And I will let them tell their story. But welcome to Jennifer and Shelly from Pursuit Fit 365. And Shelly, why don't you tell us a little bit, because I know you are the one who started the project. So why don't you tell us a bit how this idea came to life?
I had come up with the idea. Well, it wasn't just, it took about 6 months from start to finish when we started it. But I came up with the idea a couple of years ago, but I just didn't even really have the time for it. So once COVID came, it was like, okay, I have time to do this now and put full efforts in it. And I really wanted to help a lot of women get their voices. And so it was an idea. I was supposed to be speaking at the United Nations last year, and it turned out with COVID we didn't get to go. And so I was like, well, I'm at home. We have, everyone around the world at home. Let's share our stories in a way that maybe we wouldn't have had time to, or we wouldn't have the courage to, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And it was a way for me to bring 365 women together and supporting one another.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, like Caroline said, one of the most powerful things I think for us in doing the book, whether it was 20 or 365, and we've shared this, is the elevation. Like really, when you get to hear those stories, how moving they are. Ours was obviously in a business sector of the personal triumph that people had to go to get to a certain level in their business. And I think that, I think we can all admit and know that everybody has a story. People didn't get to where they got to by sailing through. Life doesn't do this, never mind business, never mind personal development, I love relationships. So tell us how basically you and Jennifer got together and what do you guys do for each other, and what is it that you're working on? We know that you have another book coming out. We have another book coming out, which is why people might be like, why are you guys kind of collaborating when really both of us have business books, personal development books, and we're also hitting the women's sector, right? Which is that whole collaboration. Share with us what you guys got going on and how you met.
Well, Jen and I met about 10 years ago, I'd say, through a mutual friend. This friend had said, you two really need to know each other and you really need to work together. Your energies will match so well, probably like you two. And we had met, and I had come up with Jen with an opportunity for doing some sales for me for Fresh Magazine. And she just said, you know what, my dog is at the door, and I wish they didn't let him by my office, but I might have to grab him. So he's a Chihuahua, but that's life, right? That's life. But so we had this opportunity together, and Jen just said it didn't work. Kind of like you and I, Deborah, like you and I met, and it's not that it didn't work, it was just not the right timing to collaborate. So with Jen, we stayed friends over the years, and as time went on, I had this idea, and I phoned up Jen to be in the book, and right away Jen was like, oh, I'm in, definitely. And I said, okay, well, that's great, you're in, but I really want you to come on board and be part of my team. And that's how it all started.
Right. So Jennifer, share with us what that was like to be on the other side of that phone call.
Well, Shelly has always kept in contact with me. She's great. We did Art Vancouver together. But when she phoned me with this project, it was like, wow, that's cool. That's a great idea. And it's like personal stories about women going through real journeys. So Shelly has like an incredible team. She's got like a great group of people around her. She's got good people working with her. So it's an easy group to join. So yeah, I was like all in. And honestly, it gave me the opportunity to like talk about like, again, women working together. You know, we can create great things. And speaking with the women that I spoke with through the holidays, like September, I joined on. Shelly laughs because she said, oh, I thought you'd sign up about 30 people at the most. So I signed up 135 at the end of the day because it was so fun. It was, you know, you're sitting and you're talking to woman after woman, hearing story after story. And as much as you could say, well, how many can you hear? They're all different. Everybody had a different story. So it's wonderful to put all of those amazing stories into one book. And like, there's stories of addiction, abandonment, somebody's brother was murdered, some woman that works in an entirely male-dominated business, okay? It's just an amazing project. So it's easy to work on. And I'm glad that Shelly thought of me to go into it. So I'm the person that talks to everybody that's going into the book to tell them what the book is about and what we're looking for exactly. But Shelly is like the brainwave behind the whole idea. I'm just along for the ride.
Well, you know, I feel like just with the little snippets that you gave, I'm sure that not that I'm sure because I did see the book, it's probably like every story you think that could be a book. You know, we could have written 365 books. Yeah, gorgeous book, by the way. But what I love about it is that it is so different. You know, like for us, we had in mind, okay, we're going business, we're going in the industry of network marketing, but you guys we're going women, which is, you know, quite, it's very broad. But what I hear when I hear your title, I hear the pursuit of happiness. And what I love about the book is that it's really about, you know, it's inspiring in general. It's not about just one subject. It's about resilience, happiness, feeling inspired. I feel like it's really a coffee book that you put on your table and you open it one day, and that's me. Well, Deb taught me how to be this superstitious. But you open one page and you're like, okay, that's what I needed to read today. And yes, that's all Deb's fault. But what is so your second book is coming. So how are you gonna find your next 365 women? Or is it only women?
Actually, am I doing that or you, Jen?
You go ahead, Shell.
Okay, so we've got 2 books for 2022, and we're doing another book with 365 women, and we've added the addition of 365 men. So we've got another, 365 women, and so far it's all been word of mouth, people that wanting to get involved with it. So one person tells another person, and that's how we've been signing people up. We haven't really done any marketing for it for this time around. And so 2 books, one's coming out on November March 4th, which is National Sons Day. And the other one is coming out on March 8th, which is actually International Women's Day again. And that day, so every day we feature a new person on freshmint.ca. And on International Women's Day, we have Manjeet Minutes from the Dragon's Den and Minutes Brewery that we're featuring.
Nice. I need to be there. I just want to ask one thing because, you know, I'm sure some of our listeners have this little voice inside of them saying, I have a story. Well, we all have a story. By the way, people, we all have a story. The question is like, do you think it's worth telling or not? But it's worth listening to, because really that's one of my thing that I read and I love. Your story may be someone else's survival guide. And that's so true. Like if you have this little thing inside of you saying, oh, I have a story, it's because someone needs to hear it. But Shelly or Jennifer, how would you respond to someone, you know, because I know I can hear people listening, like, I have a story, but no, it wouldn't be interesting enough. You know, how to get through that and just contact you and be like, I have a story and I need to tell it.
Yeah, there's a significant difference between, you know, people that say, I have a story and I want to share it. I'm dying to share that story. There is a lot of people that have said to us, you know what? I just don't think this is for me because I really don't have a story and I don't really have anything to share. And then when, you know, Jen and I, like you guys, we have the gift of the gab and we start talking and we really want to get to know people. And when we get to know them, we get them to open up. They do have a story. I mean, everyone has one. So it was, once we sat and talked to people and they opened up to us, it was very easy to find their story for them. They say, oh, that's right. That's right. So that is, a lot of people say they don't have one, right, Jen?
You don't get to be our age without having gone through some
stuff.
You know, we all have a story. We've all had kids, divorces, you know, life happens to us, been fired from jobs, whatever it is. So I think women underestimate our resilience is I think what the problem is. You know, it's always like, just keep on keeping on. We are strong for sure. So yeah, it is what Shelly said is 100%. They're like, well, I just don't think I have had any adversity. It's like, you probably have. Let's just think about that. And the other thing I hear a lot, Shell, is how would I put it all down in 365 words? You know, so that's the flip side of it. What is vanity? Like some people, like we all have a lot that has gone on. So it's like getting them to get that all compacted into 365 words. But I mean, I have to say the women, and I was getting a lot of stories about being spiritual and about being, you know, I'm on this path. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what we're looking for. You got to dig a little deeper if you want to be in here. And one woman came back with the story of how her brother was murdered when she was 15 years old. And her path at that age of forgiveness, which I think, I said to her, that's extraordinary that you had that much depth at that age and perception. So those are the kinds of, like, this is why I feel so blessed to be part of this whole thing. Like you sit down and you think I'm having a bad day. Not really. Take a look at the book, right?
Yeah.
And people were really honest. Like Shelly brought out the best of these people. Like they were really willing to share. They felt they were in a safe place.
You know what I really relate to? I'm going to relate to a story that we had last night. And one of the reasons why that we're all collaborating is because these powerful ladies are bringing out the next book for women. They're doing one for men. They've got some programs associated that we're probably going to talk about on another show. Carolyn and I we're just finished the second book for women, starting the third. We also are just announcing finishing the men's book. And then we have a couples book launching on Valentine's Day. Couples that are in business together. But the planner is where I'm having a lot of that conversation, Jennifer, because the people in business, they know they're in business. They've made that decision. They want to make themselves public. And so that's great. But we have a planner that's launching this year. It's incredible. And it has a amount of spots for people to come in. And you ladies, I'm sure, are going to be a part of that and putting a quote. Now, what we're not letting people do is use any quote other than their own voice. And it's like, whoa. Well, what do you mean? Like this planner, they know us. It's going to be marketed extensively, part of our program. Very, very cool. And people are going to be able to take that quote And, we've got some kind of little surprises going on. We won't release it here, but that quote is going to be able to be shareable. And so when people are like, I can't use Napoleon Hill, I can't use Oprah, I can't use Ellen, I can't use, I'm like, no, you have a voice, use it. It's a quote, people. What do you stand for? What's important to you? Is it parenting? Is it other people's happiness? Is it about yourself? Is it about your business? Are you and your business interrelated? And I'm like, what is it that you say to people, right? And so she turned to me and she said, well, what do you say? And I go, well, I tell people it's not the hours in your business that makes a difference. It's the moments. She's like, oh, I'm like, look, you might have found that to be profound. I might have dismissed that 10 times over. I'm sure I've said it in a speech, and it was someone else that pointed out to me, that's a great quote. It's actually my webmaster. He's like, that's got to go on the cover of your website. I'm like, seriously? He's like, seriously. And so I think we experience the same thing where these people being forced to going, oh, I'm good enough, big enough, profound enough to be able to make a quote that someone would actually be inspired by. It's a very interesting process. I think very different based on genders, based on background, based on if you were allowed to have a voice as well. I think we're really about allowing people to have voice, because even in the book that we did that had a criteria. So the book for the criteria was a considerable financial position that you had made in the business. There was one woman that was a $3 million income earner every year, right? And so it was interesting to watch the process of these women that were minimum making six figures, the process that they even went through going, do I have a story to tell? You're like, yeah, you're kind of in the top 1% of your industry. So you might want to share people how to get there. They're like, oh, I'll tell people how to get here all day. I'll give all day, but I'm not sure it's my story people need to hear. I'm sure you have someone better, more successful. And it was very interesting. Even the financial piece to the story, people making hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars still had that place inside as a woman that they didn't think their story was big enough, powerful enough. Why me? Why me?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Something very deep here. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking, because I have to come up with a quote as well. I actually chose two because it's my kids' birthdays, and I'm lucky. Two of them is in the same month. So with this being said, I have the impression that I've read so much online and I've seen so much, like we are bombarded with social media and all of this. So we have the impression that everything is already out there. But I think that what we really need to bring it back to is that maybe everything is already out there, but there's people that need to hear what you have to say, and that will cross that path, whether it's like through a planner, through a book, through a Facebook Live or whatever. There's always someone who will need to hear it. And I think it's the same thing for the stories. And what Doug said, that's the one thing that also surprised me the most, because there's some women in there that I was looking, being a bit starstruck. Yes, I'm going to be honest. And then have them calling me like, you know what, I'm not sure about this and that. I was just like, what? What? It's like, I don't think that Napoleon Hill or Oprah, let's take Oprah because it's neutral. I don't think that as she was living her story, she was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be like an amazing talk show. Like, check that out. They will see what I did. She probably sat there at some point as well. Like, I'm still learning some stuff that I read in the media about her, and I'm like, what? But people living these stories that we find so incredible, and the quotes that, we take and we write down because we want to remember them, they were not necessarily created with this intention. So we have to see it the same way when we share our story and our quote. Not that I'm the next Oprah, but,
Maybe.
Who knows? Dem? Hi, everyone. She's me. Yes.
Okay. So I was just saying, I take instructions very well. I was just saying to Shelly that I loved, and maybe she can elaborate on how we know when we wrote our book, when we did our dedication, it clearly was to our children. And so with our intention that would continue on and they would have a book. And even what it is that we're doing. And I know that for the authors, when they were in the book, it was for them like something they could share with their business family. Because if you're in business, you have one business family, and also something that their children or their people in their life could read and know the other side to them. Shelly, maybe elaborate, because I think that was really interesting how you said some of your come to with this book is that it's almost a bit of legacy.
Yeah, I would say it's, it was interesting when we looked over, the social media hashtag Pursuit 365, or, and what people were sharing with us. It was beautiful to see so many people doing photos with their children holding the book, with their grandparents holding the book, with their mothers holding the book, grandfathers, like there were even business associates, best friends. So many sharing it at such a deep level. And it was just one page, but they were just, it just was so beautiful to see it. So yeah, I would say, and myself, like you said, dedicated it to someone. I dedicated it to my daughters. So I have a 15-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they actually have the same birthday. I think I'm lucky that's the same birthday as opposed to lucky, but they have the same birthday and 9 years apart to the day. But I dedicated to, and my grandmother, who was one of the first female pilots in Canada. She was number 7, I believe. Registered female pilot, way back when. So I dedicated it, and my mother. So I dedicated to the 4 there, but all 4 generations, or 3 generations, 1 up, 2 down, or 2 up, 1 down. Yeah, legacy is definitely in, and I just want to continue that. With our next book, the Pursuit 365, the 2nd edition, women's issue, we actually had a very large group that said we want to come back in again and share another story. And I said, well, there'll be opportunities like with the magazines to do that, but we are doing a whole another group of 365. And I know a lot of people thought that was a little bit crazy to do it again, but I'm so sure that there's 365 women in Canada that want to share again. So I'm hoping that we're building a legacy like you guys, it's the same thing.
There's a story about 3 women that are in the new book that when I spoke to the eldest one is in her 60s and she's online dating. So she came back to me and she said, when we were talking on the phone, we were talking about spots in the book. So she's 3 ladies, same family, that I think it's the ex-daughter-in-law. She's so the granddaughter is doing dating from 20 to 30 or 20 to 40. The ex-daughter-in-law is doing 40 to 60, and the woman that originally called is dating 60 plus senior years. So, and they all have pages in a row. It's like, what a great thing though, eh? Like, this is what I say, like there's men that are signing up and I'm like, why don't you tell your wife to be in the woman's book or vice versa? That you both have your books that you can show your children, you can carry on, like to be in a book with your mom, to be in a book with your sister. Like, I just think it's such a huge opportunity to share your stories and to have it there forever. Like when it's in here, it's forever. Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
That's awesome. I got to ask because, people are, our listeners, they're inquisitive people. And obviously we think that all of our listeners should do everything that we're talking about. They should be getting quotes. They should be coming onto 365. They should be supporting it. And we're going to give all the information, but it's always good to know who we are a little bit. You know what? I'm just going to ask the question. I think all 4 of us could answer that, because I think what we are talking about is legacy. I think what we are talking about is empowerment. I think it is us walking through our fears to create platforms for other people to walk through their fears and be seen. So, I'm going to ask the question, Jennifer, why don't we start with you a little bit? Outside of this project, the Jennifer outside of this project, who are the people that you looked up to? Who inspires you to be you?
Well, you start with your parents, right? I have great parents. They've always been super helpful. So now I'm in a situation where I'm in that, what do we call me? I'm 58. My mom is not well, so I'm here. If you could see what Shelly and I go through on a regular work day, it's like, okay, I got to go. My mom is yelling. Okay, I got to go. I need to take Ainsley somewhere. Okay, I got to go. The dog is at the door barking. Okay, so yeah. Like this, So for me, the people that I look up to, I mean, there's so many, like, so many women mentors too, honestly. And I remember being asked the question about mentorship starting out, and I worked at Chanel when I first started in retail. I was very lucky, but I'm going to tell you, my life was The Devil Wears Prada, and I was the Anne Hathaway character. Okay. And what I learned from that experience, though, is how I would never want to treat anybody, how I would never want to be treated again. So I try at my very best to be, I'm like firm but kind, and to give everybody the benefit of a doubt, and to give everybody a voice, and to just like kind of be empathic to everybody. So yeah, I think like my mom is my biggest role model, honestly. She's a little bit crusty, but she's awesome. And working with great groups of women. That's, working with men is great. I like men because they could just move on to something, like they have their moment and then they just move on. That's what I like about working with guys. But working with women, there's so many different, nobody's really super, people are kind. I've only met really in my entire life, a couple are really not nice people. At their core, most people are super kind and they're just damaged and we're just all doing the best we can. Right? So you just always try to keep that in mind. Like, do I want to see anybody get fired? Absolutely not. I don't want them to be without their livelihood. Just do your job. That's all. Right? Just do what you're paid to do, and let's all just kind of get along and do that. So that's my whole thing. I think all women can be great mentors for all women.
That's awesome. So Shelly, and then Caroline, and then I'll finish off on that. So Shelly, how about you?
As far as people I look up to?
Or people that have motivated you or inspired you to be who you are outside of Shelly, owner and creator of 365, like just your personhood, right?
Oh, my grandmother, who I just mentioned, is one of them. Always got up every day happy, always did her best. When she didn't like something, she'd let you know. And then once it was done, and she moved on. Woke up, like I said, she would wake when she babysit us. I'd wake up in the morning, wakey, wakey, every morning with a glass of orange juice. So I would say my grandmother. I would say my 15-year-old daughter. She's got multiple severe life allergies. I spent many, many times in the hospital. A lot of things have gone on in her life that she's had to get through. So she really inspires me. My mom, and if I was to say the business side of it, Anne Kaplan-Mullen from iFinance Canada, she just started where she was at, and then now she is where she's at, and she just is so hardworking, and she's just so hardworking and kind. And when stuff goes wrong, she just keeps going and fixes it. Like life is a series of problems and solutions. Just deal with it. So she's a huge one. And you know what? I will say this book, every single woman in it, 365, has really inspired me as well. That they wanted to share their stories. That is a really scary thing to do sometimes, to put it out to the world. It's something that's out there. So I would say those are, those, and my team as well. Like, I'm so lucky to have an incredible team too. But yeah. And you guys, where's your inspiration?
Well, everyone knows who my inspiration is. It's Deborah Drummond. No, let's be real. She is one of my inspiration, but not the one. No, I've answered that a bit before in different ways, because people will ask you who's your hero and this and that. And I don't have one specific person. My inspiration to get up every morning and do what I have to do is my kids. And I would say that they're my biggest teachers, because they're the only people in my life that, I love deep enough to actually really listen and care. So they really inspired me, and since they're born, basically. And I want to start saying too that I'm starting to inspire myself, because I come from a difficult background. I come from a lot of trauma and things like that. And I never thought I was worth it. And I'm starting to see that, hey, I can accomplish things, and hey, I'm feeling better, and I'm happy, and I'm this, all things that I never thought I could. So for me, like the little Carolyn and the adult Carolyn coming together as a new person. And that's pretty, I'm trying to keep that inspiration. But, and of course I could say, you know, a bunch of different leaders that I absolutely admire, women in the world and some men, but I'm not going to go through the list because it would be unfair to the ones that I would forget. You, Deborah, besides me, who inspires you the most?
See, I love that. I love our relationship because even though we josh, it's actually true. It's actually true. And I'm sure that you guys can appreciate that. You don't work this close, this hard, this hair in your ponytail, you know, showing yourself. We're in the business of helping people show themselves. And so we've kind of gone raw to the core. You know, you don't take 11 flights around Australia with a stranger and not end up knowing who each other is. And so obviously, I aspire and I love parts of Caroline that help me love parts of me. And I think that at this stage in my life, when Caroline talks about falling in love with herself, really, I remember the first time I was proud of myself. I actually called a dear friend, I call him my brother, and we've been friends for over 40 years. And I came walking, you know, I was just walking home one day and my teenager was being a teenager and I was kind of out of my mind. And I had this wash over of accomplishment. And I, like Caroline, you know, I always say that I came from a home that we used to have wieners and beans, but there was no wieners, you know, so it was a forge of a lot of pioneering. In my first early years, I would have to say that my Aunt Sandra was an emotional stability, you know, stable force in my life. Of course, I appreciate what my mother went through as a single mom. Who came from her own trauma, which I don't think we really appreciate until we start going through our own, the abilities that they had back then. And I don't think it's fair for us in this evolved world to work back and go, why didn't you do that for me, what I'm doing for my kids? Because it wasn't culture, right? And so I think you only get that with grace and age, which is where I think the power of forgiveness comes from. But I have to say, honestly, from the icon world, I fell in love with Gloria Steinem from the time I met that woman or heard her speak. And between her and Janis Joplin, I think that's just been my go-tos. And even when I took my big first award in Neora, in the company that I'm in, they didn't tell me. I literally was behind stage and I knew that I'd taken #1 in one category and I was super proud of myself. And they're like, come back around the stage. And I'd hit #1 in another category. No one had ever done it. They're like, they did this to me. They go to the podium. You've got 30 seconds. And I'm like, I just want to thank my daughter, my mother, my grandmother, and Gloria Steinem. Thank you. And I walked off, right? Because she's always in my energy field. So I love Janis Joplin. I love Gloria Steinem because they made impact. You know, a lot of people don't know that how picked on and Janis Joplin was in school, right? So I think it's stories like that. And then obviously my children, I have a son kind of like Shelly, you do with your daughter, and keeps me on my toes, and it's just amazing. And I think that the stronger we are, the stronger they get to be. So I think that it's important for people to know that not only are we encouraging people to move through their stuff, that we've also moved through ours, and you get to love yourself as part of the result, right? So
And
I'm going to kind of wrap up.
I want to say something. I think we dug a bit deep. I don't think any of us thought we would go there, but I think that collaboration in the end does bring this sense of security, this sense of strength, because when you're not alone, you're way more powerful, you know? And for me, that's what I've been experiencing in the last years. You know, collaboration in my team, collaboration with Deb, different kind of collaboration. And there's nothing more empowering than having other women lifting you up, you know, fix your crown without having to tell the world. That's like a good one. And support each other. And I'm saying women, but it's really like everyone. So yes, to close this show, I would love to invite everyone, if you have a story to tell, if you're in business, if you're in network marketing more specifically, you can reach Deborah and I if you want to be part of a book about business, if you want to be part of a book about the pursuit, you know, happiness, inspiring, resilience. Well, contact Shelly and Jennifer. All the information will be attached to the podcast. And if ever you want to put a quote in our planner, we have a few spots left. So contact us. You will, I'm a planner girl and I cannot wait to see my quote printed. I think I know I will highlight it. It's going to be special. It is special when you see your name printed on something with, your words. So ladies, before giving it to you for a last word, I want to thank you. Thank you, Deborah, for being there. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you, Shelly. I'm excited. Deborah and I will be in their next book and they will be in our planner. So yay, super excited. Thank you. And it was a pleasure crossing, I'm happy that our roads crossed. So Jennifer, if you want to say your last word.
What I wanted to say was I'm listening to Shell doesn't have any sons, but you both have a son and I have a son, amazing young man, 23 years old. And I'm speaking of men right now very quickly in collaboration. There's a lot of people were asking for a men's book and we went back and forth on it. And it's like, you know what? The world's been focusing so much on men that aren't good guys lately. We need to focus on the good guys. So that's why we decided that Shelly said, okay, if you want to do it, let's do it. So we do have the Men's Pursuit 365. And I have to tell you, the men that I've spoken to so far that are in the book are amazing. So yeah, it's fun collaborating with them on a project and I felt that most of them wouldn't go where the women are going, but the stories that we've been getting in, they're going there. So yeah.
I can't wait to read that one, honestly.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm really, really, really happy with it. And again, with the women, of course, it's like a great project. So everybody join the book. Shelly's got a great thing and Shelly's putting together a whole community of great people that are all going to network and work together. And we're going to accomplish great things with people like you guys.
Awesome. Thank you,
And
Shelly.
thank you for having us on.
Our pleasure. Shelly.
Well, first of all, ladies, thank you so much for having us on your show. Oh, how lucky are we? Also, your planner sounds absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm one of those people that write stuff down, like I pen in my hand. I have to write stuff down. I mean, I do use my computer, but I would love every day just to have that little quote. It's just that push every day, even with the pursuit side of it, the inspirational stories that come out every day, this is different. You got your planner, you open it up. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And I really hope some of our Pursuit 365 authors take a look at it and get involved because I really encourage it. As far as you guys go, aren't we lucky that we are working with you and collaborating and moving forward, for great women and encouraging all of our groups to work together.
Imagine when we collaborate on planning the party at the end. So let's give the last word to Deborah because she always wants it.
And there you go. That's what people love about us. Thank you, Miss Caroline. Again, thank you, ladies. And Jennifer, thank you for highlighting about the men. We also went through that with the men's book. And what it was, it's a different experience. It is a different experience. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think women are starting to find their place, and so are men. Because herein lies the opposite. And I know because I've taught my son to stay in the elevator until all the women are out. I've taught my son to walk on this side of the street. I've taught my son to open the door. And I remember it was a little difficult for him. And it was like he didn't know his role. Because there could be women that go, I can open my own door, right? And he's like, where do I sit in society? So I think as we build women up, we have to allow men to soften, right? And we have to, I remember what men went through when they were the stay-at-home dads and their counter partner, who was a woman, was out there making more money, what they went through. So we have to, maybe as we're putting our cape on, we have to let them take their cape off, right? I think it's really fair. And so, congratulations for recognizing that men also have stories to tell because it's a funky place. And depending the generation you come from, it even gets funkier because you just don't know your role.
I'm watching Ray Donovan right now. And I just say this quickly because I know we're wrapping up, but last night's episode, it was even the bad guy that he is, and he's not, it's a very tormented, complex, great character, but there he is picking his wife up and he gets out of the car and opens the door for her. And closes it, and the way he treats the women in his life, even though he's this bad guy. And that's how I want my son to treat his girlfriend and his future wife and all the women, my mom, all the women in his life. That's how we treat men to treat women, right?
Yeah.
With
It's
respect.
very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. So anyways, you're going to be having your experience. We're allowing this major platform. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Caroline, always being an amazing counterpart. We're so excited for our people to meet you and participate in your projects. We're so excited to welcome your people onto ours and see everybody benefit. What a great, can't wait to be on your guys' podcast one day. This will not be the last. So thank you, listeners. You guys are incredible. We appreciate you so much. If you see anything here, please contact us. If you want to be on the show, please contact us. If you want to be in any of these books, please contact us. If you want to just comment and click on all of our YouTubes and subscribe and see what all these 4 crazy women are doing, then do so. So thank you. We always appreciate you. And with that, we will sign off and we will see you next week.